Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Matthew Pittman. I teach in the School of Advertising and Public Relations, which is in the College of Communication and Information. So I'm kind of like we're sort of cousins to you all, the Comm Studies people. And I'm going to talk to you all today in your homes about social media. So let me share this. Yes, please. After today, you all are going to be social media moguls. How exciting. Maybe you can end up on a bad reality show. You can't spell social media without me. So let's talk about me, shall we? Specifically, my research. By the way, since I'm here recording this and I won't be there when you watch it, if you find anything cool or useful or stupid, feel free to tweet it at me. That's my handle. When you Google Matthew Pittman, there's three that you find on the internet. The first one, the most famous, is barbecue grill master in like Kansas City. He has a website called like the Meat Church. It's all about like grill recipes. Second most famous Matthew Pittman is a meth head in North Dakota who got a DUI for driving a golf cart off a golf course and into someone's house. And then number three is me. So my goal is become successful enough in life that I pass meth head Matthew Pittman, and I'm just still underneath the meat Matthew Pittman. So yeah, share if you find anything useful. Okay, so this is from a survey I did a couple years ago where we asked people to rate platforms, social media platforms, based on how intimate they were. Our definition of intimacy was this allows me to connect with others, and then how image or text-based it was. So if you see on the right, uh, Facebook was actually rated as more intimate than Instagram and Snapchat, which was kind of a surprise. But it makes sense after we thought about it because Facebook is a symmetrical follow structure. So we have to agree to friend each other. And then we're doing more than just showing pictures. We're talking, sending videos, whatever you want to do. And then over at the other end, poor LinkedIn. It's not intimate and it's text based. It's very unsexy, not that fun. It's more like a utility for business. Um, this was we did this survey before TikTok was around, so I'm trying to think of where TikTok it would be. Probably between Instagram and Snapchat. Maybe it's obviously very image based, so it's probably even above. It would be above Instagram, but I don't know how intimate it is because I follow like random people on it. It's not something I do with like my close friends. So this is from that same survey. So from left to right, if you look down at the bottom, 0, 1, and 2, that's the number of image-based platforms. So 0 is people that don't use Instagram or Snapchat. 1 is people that use one of those. 2 is people that use both Instagram and Snapchat. And you can see there's something about using image-based platforms in particular where loneliness goes down and satisfaction with life and happiness goes a little up. But really, it's more that it alleviates loneliness. So there's something about using image-based social media that connects us with others somehow, that actually does alleviate loneliness. And as we'll see later, that this works to a point, but there is a point of diminishing returns. And we ask people, what do you do when you use Instagram? The responses they gave, this is a text sentiment analysis of all their responses. They used words like friend, person, photo, life, stay in touch, keep in touch. It's fun to use. So all these words kind of have connotations of sharing life with one another. But for Twitter, it's a little different. Friend is still used a lot, but also news, information, celebrities, boredom. It's more of a utility, like a tool, and less of like a fun thing that feels good to do. So the question is, can social media make you happy? Well, yes, kind of, but it depends on how you use it. So this is from another study I did. If you just look at that bottom, frequency of use does have a small relationship with happiness. So the more frequently you use social media, it seems to make you happier, right? But actually, when you account for perceived intimacy, that is, the more frequently you use social media, the more likely you are to use it in a way that connects you with others. And the more you use it to connect you with others, that's actually what makes you happy. So it's not the social media itself. That's just a tool to connect you with other people. Okay. That was some of my older research. Now I'm in the School of Ad and PR, so I look at advertising on social media. So I had a paper published this year, 2 months ago, which feels like 50 years ago, um, where we found that intimate platforms are better for intimate appeals. So on the left, um, we have a life proof ad that says, our new cases are 40% lighter, so you won't drop it. And there's one person in the picture. On the right, we made another ad. Our new case is 40% lighter, so your friend won't drop it, and it's two friends together. We found that the one on the right did better on Snapchat and Instagram, and the one on the left did better on Pinterest and Twitter. So the more solo platforms, people are in a more solo mindset, and those ads that have that appeal or message that do better than ads that promote togetherness. Anyway, so that's that's my research. We'll come back to it again at the end. But yeah, tweet me if you have any questions or want to know more or whatever, which I'm sure you will. I'm sure you do. All right, social media in general. This shouldn't be very surprising. Where US adults are active, it's probably what you'd expect. Facebook is sort of the godfather of social media, even though Zuckerberg basically stole it from MySpace, which stole it from Friendster. And then it goes down with newer platforms skewing to younger viewers, younger users. So TikTok would be even less adults using it and more teens than this. Another pretty chart. If you're really pressed for time and you don't have time to watch this 8-hour YouTube lecture, then just screenshot this. And also, if you ever have any, I don't know what your like homework assignments are for this class, but if you ever do any project that involves social media, just Google the most recent statistics. Because even though this is pretty recent, I'm sure these numbers have changed slightly between whoever made this infographic and whenever you do your project. So always search for the most recent updated information. But isn't this beautiful and color coded? Yeah, so Pinterest, more about discovery, which, by the way, if you're in a relationship and your partner's on Pinterest, follow them and their pins, because then you can see, oh, like my wife's on it and I follow to see what kind of stuff she's into. So like a birthday, I know she liked these earrings. Great, I can get those. Twitter, microblogging site, yeah, 280 characters, short. Facebook, mobile is its cash cow. We all know what Facebook is. Instagram, sharing photos, pictures, and they kind of stole Snapchat's thing with stories. Snapchat disappears after a while, and LinkedIn's more business oriented. We'll get into more specifics right about now. So Facebook, obviously it's the biggest platform in terms of reach. I think it's like a third of the planet's on it or something. And in terms of age and demographics. So it reaches the most people, the most kinds of people, all that stuff. We know what Facebook looks like. It looks like this. It's kind of boring. I deleted my Facebook, but then when we moved to Tennessee, I reactivated it so I could join like stand-up paddle boarders in Appalachia, like random Facebook clubs, to try and like figure out stuff to do. So like I said, it's a symmetrical following, so we have to follow each other. So platforms like that will inherently be more intimate and connecting than asymmetrical, right? Where I can like follow the rock, but he's not going to follow me back. And facts. There's lots of stuff. Again, just Google. These are ad statistics, but it's always worth 69% of all adults in the US use Facebook. 74% visit the platform each day. Yeah, there's all kinds of stats. If you're doing a project, Google it to see the most recent up-to-date stuff. Facebook's kind of boring. And also, researching Facebook is kind of boring because it's like looking for relationships like, oh, does Facebook correlate to happiness or loneliness or whatever? It's like people who breathe, or people who like have hair. Like it's so general, everybody uses it. It's just like talking on the phone now that there's nothing really interesting from my point of view. I don't really study it much anymore because everybody uses it, and so there's nothing special about it. So it's like, eh. Okay, Instagram. We know what Instagram looks like, don't we? Studying Instagram is hard, by the way, because most of the time we use it on our mobile devices. So doing like an experiment in a lab is hard to get to like recreate that experience. Anyway, during quarantine, this is what Instagram is for the most part. It's funny memes, because humor is how many of us deal with anxiety and troubling times. Instagram's owned by Facebook. So even though I deleted my Facebook, I was still using Instagram. So Facebook was still like profiting off my data and clicks and likes and stuff. It's highly visual, obviously. Remember the chart from the beginning. So some of this information is what I talked to in my social media class, which is more from a brand perspective. Like, here's how to be a social media manager for a nonprofit organization, brand, whatever. But I left some of the stats in because I think they're interesting, even if you have no intention of going into advertising or public relations. So when you run ads on Instagram, they're more engaging than on Facebook. Do you know how much more? Like 2-3 times? No, 58 times higher than on Facebook, which kind of makes sense. But I'm never on Facebook, so I'm not a good like sample. But I know when I'm on Instagram, they get me a lot. Like, oh, that's good. Like, pre-workout or something like socks. Cool. I've bought stuff off Instagram way more than I have off of Facebook. When's the best time to post? Well, if you're representing a nonprofit, the best time to post looks like it's Wednesday at 2 p.m. That's when you get the most engagement. But if you're in education, so University of Tennessee, all the social accounts I follow, they would get the best engagement Friday morning at 10 a.m., which is weird. And this is from Sprout, which is a big social site. So I'm sure some of this has changed a little bit, but there's information like this that has heat maps and like guidelines of when the best time to post is to get the most engagement, the biggest, like reach the most eyeballs with your content. Kind of interesting. And again, this is all on, you can Google this and you find sites like this. Best time stuff? No thanks. Yeah, 2020. So they've updated this. Consumer brands, there's all kinds of stuff. It's pretty interesting, actually, and useful. Speaking of influencers, for my social media class, one of their assignments was to pretend you're an influencer and make an ad for a fake product, and this was one of my favorites. I'm gonna turn the volume up, make sure you can hear it.
Oh, I didn't see you there. What's up? Using Brogenics, the only pre-workout you can start. Oh, yeah. Use code FIZBOT or swipe up for 69% off your first order.
Phil's a trip. I don't, if you all know him, he's funny. Okay, Twitter. It's more professional, business to business. Uses for Twitter are pretty much what you would imagine. It's more timely, get news, information. It's more up to date, like sports scores, stuff like that. Not now, but eventually when sports come back. Quick updates. You can also link to, because Twitter has a character limit. A lot of times people do like a little headline excerpt and they'll link to another article or video or page or whatever. Usually less time investment than other channels because it's just text, so you don't have to worry about like photo production, lighting, video, something. You're just linking, hey, this is a cool article I read. Or if you all tweet at me, hey, that video of the dude snorting pre-workout off his sleeve was funny, and then tag me, that won't take you very long. Yeah, not a lot of old people on Twitter, mostly youngins like yourself. This is probably, all these numbers are probably nudging up over time. So this is from last year, but usually platforms go up a little bit. So yeah, but it makes sense. It's more of a younger platform. Snapchat. Do you think Snapchat skews towards older or younger users? Yeah, obviously it's for the youngins. How many snaps are snapped per day? 3 billion. Is that all? I wish we were actually in class. If I was lecturing there in your classroom, I would say how many of you are on Snapchat, because I love to get a current like head count. It seems like maybe half of people are on it. It used to be like teens. Maybe you had it and you kind of like deleted it because it's not really. I feel bad for Snapchat because they came up with the idea of stories, the whole idea of like content that goes up and then disappears after a while. It's very clever. And now I went on for the first time getting ready for this lecture today, and they have like Bitmoji cartoons where they take your Bitmoji and do like an episode of a show with it in it. They have some creative people there. It just stinks because I'm an adult. I don't have that much time to social media. Um, anyway, seeing ads on Snapchat compared to other platforms is more annoying. So ad fatigue is higher. I don't know why that is. Maybe because it takes up the whole screen, so it feels like you're being overwhelmed with brand content when you just want to see your friends' stuff or whatever. Whereas on Instagram, you can kind of scroll past it real fast. I don't know. How many of you all would open a snap from an unknown brand? I would have guessed low numbers like 10 or 15%, but it's actually half of you, which is weird. Um, yeah, there's other Snapchat's been in the news a couple times. There was an article about how it elicits more jealousy in married couples than Facebook because if you're snapping somebody, everyone assumes like, oh, you send in like nude pictures. But most of what people are doing on Snapchat is chatting with friends, photo sharing, making stories, and then, yeah, it's all what you'd expect. Saving the memories. Way down at the bottom, 11 people out of whatever, like 1,500, 2,000 send. I don't know why you'd send money over Snapchat when there's this is probably before Venmo. Um, and yeah, only a third of people are discovering new stories. So really, it's more people are going on there to connect with people with friends they already know. We're not going on there to be like, hey, stranger, let's start snapping each other every day. Nobody really wants that. Um, yeah. Okay. Pinterest, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's not really a peer-to-peer, like person-to-person thing. But it is great for art, visual concepts, fashion, beauty, design, architecture. All these kind of brands are advertising on Pinterest. And it's growing a lot with dudes. It was a female-heavy platform when it first came out, but dudes are like their biggest increasing demographic. This is what it looks like. So clearly I've looked at home improvement stuff, Tacoma trucks, and like bacon cheeseburger, grilled cheese casserole, which sounds, can't tell if that sounds disgusting or delicious. Um, I don't know. My tastes have changed a little bit here in quarantine. Yeah. So Pinterest, good for people you're in really close relationships with. I don't think you're going to meet someone like, hey, I like your pins, bro. Let's go hang out. Who's on Pinterest? Yeah, as I said, at their user base is growing. Third largest social network in the US. That's kind of crazy. Their revenue is over $1 billion. So, yeah, they're there. They're making money. People are using it. It's just not big in my world personally, but that's a hard thing to figure out as you go through life. There's the way you see and experience the world, and it's really hard to figure out like where do I differ from other people and where are we all having kind of the same experience? Like right now, it seems like we're all having the same experience. Being in quarantine is a little weird, a little crazy. Time has no meaning. Like drinking martinis at 10 a.m. and wearing pajamas all day. That part's a shared experience. But being on Pinterest, not so much. LinkedIn, all right, let's talk for maybe like 20, 30 minutes about LinkedIn. Not really. LinkedIn's kind of boring. It's just good for one-on-one networking and business to business. But once I had like the burnout from high school, try and connect me on LinkedIn and be like, will you endorse my public speaking? It kind of lost all meaning for me. If I'm like, those are the weird things that people are endorsing, then the skills, all that stuff's kind of meaningless. Okay, YouTube. Did you know? I did not. That it's the second largest search engine in the world obviously behind Google. How many hours of video per day are watched? 1 billion. Oh, that seems like a lot. I mean, there's a lot of humans, but still, that seems like a lot. What percent of users watch a brand channels every week? I don't, but 3/4 of YouTube users do. That means they're going to like Coke or Nike's channels to see what kind of content they're putting out. What percent of users watch YouTube on a mobile device first? For me, I only watch YouTube on mobile when I'm like too lazy to read a bedtime story with my kid. I'll be like, what animal video do I want to watch? Like, oh, look at cheetahs. Or like when I'm cooking something in the kitchen. Um, so this, yeah, the most recent stat is 50%. So what does that mean if we're watching YouTube on a mobile device? A lot of these implications are for branded sponsored content, but one important thing here is that 40% will watch their favorite YouTube creator's latest video within 24 hours. So the timeline of YouTube, like if you make something on YouTube and it doesn't take off right away, the chances people will ever see it goes way down. And obviously we do find content. Like last year I got into what was it, Hot Ones, the Hot Wing show, Hot Questions and Hotter Takes or whatever. And I just went down the rabbit hole. I watched like every single one in reverse order. So obviously people do get to the older, deeper content, but for the most part, people only really engage with the newest and the most recent, because by the time you finish that, there's something else new and recent out. Okay, so here in quarantine, Twitter is where you get your daily death count. That's depressing. Instagram is where we're taught that your self-isolation is not as cool as my self-isolation. Facebook's where your hippie aunt chiropractor. This is funny. It's a joke. Haha, jokes. TikTok, no one really knows. So TikTok is still relatively new in terms of like figuring out how to best use it or make use of it. There's not a ton of research on it. But it is pretty funny. There's 800 million users. I think it's been around 4 years, 2018, 2016, something. It really took off in the last like year or two. Most downloaded app, which is pretty impressive, I think. It's the new teen thing. So your parents and grandparents probably aren't on it, but maybe your little siblings are. The average user spends 52 minutes. Again, these are all just like random stats that I pulled. But if you have a project or something's going on, you just Google it, find your own stuff. 52 minutes. So that specific time increment we'll get to in 1 second. My neighbors are all out walking their dogs. Dude, now that it's sunny and quarantine, people are just losing their minds, like want to be outside so bad. Okay, so another assignment I had was to teach me, so in my social media class, which is a 400 level, right, 461, but anybody can take it. Like I have some Comm Studies students this semester. One of the assignments was to create a TikTok that taught me something that you've learned since being at UT, and these are 3 of my favorites.
It's Corona time. Hey, it's Corona time right now. It's Corona time.
I think a lot of us felt that way. For me, my like whoa moment was when the NBA canceled their season or suspended. I was like, oh, this is going to be a real thing, huh? And this is one of my grad students. I like this one too.
Welcome to the life of an adult's child. You wake up, it's time for coffee. Take a shower, it's time for coffee. Go to work, it's time for coffee. Get fired, it's time for coffee. And by 5 o'clock, it should be time for coffee.
So TikTok, highly visual, vertical oriented. Most of the posts seem to have music or sound effects on them. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty silly. Again, most of us don't have enough time to do all these platforms. So the one thing that I want you to walk away from this, if you're standing while you watch this, that would be weird. Social media can be helpful in connecting you with others and subsequently bringing you happiness and decreasing loneliness, but only up to a point. So my dissertation, which was entitled Phoneliness, can you guess what that was about? Looked at all those platforms that we've covered, and it assessed how much people used them, and then how lonely and happy they were. So the chart you're about to see, the little frequency ticks are in like 15-minute increments. So texting, right? This was the most, think back to the beginning of this lecture. Texting was the most intimate because you don't text with randos for the most part. You're texting like, hey, what time are we meeting up? How you doing? What's going on? So from left to right, the more you text, generally there's a little hump, but generally it's a lot, your loneliness goes down. So the more time you're texting, you're only really doing that with people you know in real life. So it successfully mitigates or alleviates loneliness, right? It's making you less lonely because you're connecting with others. That makes sense. For Facebook, you can see 4, so 4, so that's about an hour. So an hour a day of Facebook is actually good for you or okay to do, I think, because you're connecting with others. Once you start to use Facebook more than that, loneliness goes back up. I think this is because depending on the platform and the person, right? Extroverts need more. I'm an extrovert. I need more like stimulation, like, yeah, coffee, whatever, alcohol, like people, all this kind of stuff. So depending on your, like your personality and the platform, most of us, you're connecting to a point, but then if you're using Facebook for like 2-3 hours a day, then you've gone beyond connecting with those you know in real life, and you're at the point of like actually distancing yourself from people in real life because you're just living in that world. It also depends on what you're doing. If you're doing upward social comparison, which is where you're like, oh man, they have a great butt and great abs, I'll never have that. Or downward social comparison, like, man, so-and-so is a real piece. I hate that, look at their life. That sucks. I'm better than that. Depending on how we use it, how we compare ourselves to others, all these things factor in. My kid's out there. I have a 1-year-old. She's banging something on the table. But generally, you can see Facebook use does decrease loneliness to a point, but then if you use it more than that, it goes up. And for Snapchat, it's an even shorter interval. For this, and this was done at college students at the University of Oregon a couple of years ago, but people that use Snapchat use does make them less lonely to about 45 minutes a day. And then beyond that, using it more and more, that loneliness creeps back up. I think this is because, again, if you're doing that much Snapchat, you probably don't have time. You're not using it in ways that are connecting you or giving life or connecting you with other people. You're using it as like a distraction or kill time, which is fine, but it's not like healthy or good for you in that sense. So takeaways, my advice, be deliberate in your social media use. This is hard, especially now in quarantine. I feel like I live on my phone. We have to take like breaks where we just put it down. But when you can, think about what you want to do before you open up a platform. I know we've all been there where you're like, for me, Instagram is the one I use most. Fire it up. I'll be like, oh, I'll try to like something. I'll be like, wait, I already like that. And then I'll remember, oh yeah, I went on Instagram like 2 minutes ago and I forgot, because it's like this part, it's just a habit routine, and I want to be deliberate and thoughtful about it. And when you can, use it in ways that connect you with people that are life-giving, that you have real relationships with. Try to use it in ways that connect and not separate you from other people. Well, that's it. I hope you learned something or got to enjoy this a little bit. Have a good quarantine. I'll see you guys around maybe. Okay, bye.